Good evening. Welcome to the general floor meeting of November 22nd. I'm using the executive committee agenda stuff. Scott, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Chair, did you want to
Pledge. Sorry. Excuse me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Basically, we can do the vote, please.
I will. I'll take a roll call of our remote participants to make sure that they can hear and be heard. Ms. Engman? Ms. Engman?
Not really sure if we're supposed to be hearing something, but I can't hear anything. Can other people hear things?
Can you hear
I
me?
just started hearing it now.
Okay. Ms. Engman?
I can hear.
Okay. Mr. Bernier?
I can now, but up until just now, we could.
I forgot to unmute the room.
There's terrible feedback as well.
Somebody in the room is. Ms. Giannini?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here?
Ms. Strickland?
Here.
Mr. Strauss?
Good evening.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Robb?
Here.
Ms. Tees?
Here.
And Mr. Abrams? Elliot?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Public comment, 5 minutes on item that is not on the agenda, please. Not hearing any. Anyone on Zoom would like to comment? Going once, going twice. Not hearing any, thank you. New agenda items, any item that would like to, someone would like to have added to the agenda? Anyone on Zoom? Not hearing any, thank you. Approval of minutes. We have two consent items. We'll do the approval of minutes and then we'll do the recognition. So we have minutes of October 25. Please, motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of October 25 general floor meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We will do staff recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For staff recognition tonight, I would like to call on Anita Tees, please. She has something she'd like to share, please.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to speak to what a difference Scott Binkley has made to me as a supervisor. I was very familiar with township matters, but coming to COG with its alphabet soup of committee names and procedures and policies, it's a whole new world. And I imagine many of us have found that Scott is the first person that we interact with at COG. And I've been made so much more comfortable by the way that he's communicated. Many of us, I think, ask questions, and he has responded to all my emails. I've started to think he's more valuable than Google in terms of giving the information that I was seeking at the time that I was seeking. Pardon? Yeah. And also, it seems to me that the way he's communicated he's at the heart of the communication, and as he builds knowledge among all of us, it helps our collegiality. It helps us to function better as multiple municipalities coming together with a common purpose. So I just wanted to say, and how appropriate that many times it's Scott who does the sound check for us, and his value goes beyond the technical, because I have always felt heard by him whenever I would ask a question or try to clarify my beginning knowledge and my misunderstanding. So I wanted to speak to, we hear a lot about infrastructure these days, and to me, Scott is the heart of our human infrastructure here. And I just am very grateful for how his outreach and his professionalism and always answering the questions and getting right back to us. It has made me feel comfortable coming into COG and trying to learn all the specifics of the various rules and procedures. So I just wanted to say thank you, Scott. You've really made a difference to me, and I imagine to many others on this meeting tonight. Thank you.
No time for a speech, Scott. Okay, we will now do recognition, and we're going to do the staff recognition.
You're working off exactly.
Oh, okay, I'm working off two agendas here, so. We will then move to the Center Region Climate Action and Adoption Plan presented by Pam, and I think there's a motion there, so I'd entertain a motion to begin.
You want the motion?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was like,
Either one of you.
I didn't know that you wanted a motion now, but seeing that you do, I would like to make the motion that the general forums, as recommended by the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee and the Executive Committee, approve resolution 2021-10 to adopt the Center Region Climate Action and Adaptation Plan.
Second.
Discussion?
Pam has a presentation.
Pam?
All right. So I'm going to give a presentation tonight. And I know many of you have seen this presentation, but for the audience that goes beyond, this might be new to some people. I'm going to give you information, and hopefully you'll find some new information in here as well. So if you recall, in September, the general forum, you elected officials referred the plan to the municipalities for review, and tonight I'm going to give the updated climate action and adaptation plan and give that summary and walk you through it. So first, I want to acknowledge all of the people who have been involved in this process. This plan could not have been created without them. The Public Services and Environmental Committee and the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee has provided that oversight and guiding policy throughout this process. And then I'll also highlight the technical advisory group that has been instrumental in creating this plan. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but I want to thank everybody who's been involved. This process began in 2018. And the objective has been to create a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the changing climate conditions for our community, for all 6 municipalities. We want to focus on regional issues, being pragmatic and fiscally responsible. So to get to that objective of creating this climate action and adaptation plan, we followed these 7 steps. This is the process we've been through, and happy to say that we're at milestone number 5. The plan itself walks through these different milestones, and I will also go through those with you. So the table of contents sort of is how I'm going to structure my presentation for you. As you can see, it's about 100 pages. We try to incorporate pictures and stories with the information so that it is readable and maybe somewhat enjoyable. So the first chapter is the introduction, which is where we're trying to explain why we've done this climate action and adaptation plan process. We've identified the goal that was identified by the General Forum July of last year when you passed a resolution to identify the community should reduce its greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. And again, so those are the numeric goals. There are also 3 other ones that are listed on the resolution today that sort of is a refresher of all the things that this plan is trying to get us to, such as continue to lead by example, reach these goals in a manner that is transparent, fair, and economically responsible. We want to encourage local projects and local impacts first, and promote clean, renewable energy. So those were in the resolution from 2020 of last year. I do want to point out a recent ICLEI study, and ICLEI, if you recall, is the organization that we've worked with for our inventory, and they've been instrumental in providing national support to local government on climate action. And in their study, they found that under a realistic, though ambitious, set of assumptions, it is possible for most U.S. local communities to reduce per capita emissions by 63% or more by 2030. So we can do this. In the plan, the next chapter talks about the co-benefits. So when we're talking about the actions in the plan and trying to figure out priorities, it's important to recognize that many, if not most of the actions include co-benefits. And we've grouped them into these 4 categories shown here. And I'm going to just give an example instead of just listing them off. But from sustainable transportation, we have an objective to align land use and housing with transportation infrastructure in order to increase walking, biking, and public transit. So in other words, we want to reduce the reliance on cars. And some of that has co-benefits, such as it advances equity by inclusion of lower income people not needing to purchase cars. It protects our natural resources by increasing compact development, reducing sprawl. It provides cleaner air with less pollution, with less traffic, less cars on the road. And all of this can help with more attainable housing costs, which in turn can help our community with economic prosperity. So that's just an example of co-benefits. At the October municipal meetings, I talked and gave an example about the co-benefits of energy efficiency actions. So I just wanted to quickly share this chart here. It's from Clean Jobs Pennsylvania 2020, and basically it points out that clean energy jobs in Pennsylvania have increased for the 7th straight year in a row, and that growth rate from 2017 to 2019 was 9.6%, whereas in comparison, the overall statewide employment growth was 2%. So again, there is economic prosperity and job growth that is potential here with many of our actions. Milestone number 1 and one of the chapters is the Center Region's greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And so in this chapter, we talk about what our emissions are, and this image here shows that there are 824,209 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. These emissions are for our community. They don't include Penn State. Penn State has their own inventory, and we didn't want to double count. We are collaborating together to try to, as a community as a whole, reduce our emissions. But you can see that the bulk of our emissions are from the energy use in buildings, and then transportation is the next one. Milestone number 3 is performing a vulnerability assessment. And so that's another chapter in which we do talk about how we performed a high level, but a good starting point, vulnerability assessment. And we were informed by participating in the Center County 2021 Hazard Mitigation Plan update, and also Ferguson Township's Community Resilience Building Workshop. And this image here is to try to sort of visually show what the projected climate changes are that we're going to be seeing here, which is both increased temperature and fluctuations in precipitation. And then those gradual changes will lead to local climate hazards. And the point here is not that they're going to happen every summer or every storm event, but there's going to be these episodic, perhaps, deluges of rain, and then we can also experience heat waves and drought a different summer, a different season. And we've seen some of that this summer with Tennessee having 17 inches of rain in 24 hours, and then Hurricane Ida led to major flooding in Philadelphia, New Jersey, and New York. So it's not gonna happen all the time, but these are projections that are what we might experience here in the center region. And then those hazards have impacts, direct impacts on our community members, which are listed on the right. And these are some of the examples given, whereas if we have more power outages, if our electric grid infrastructure is aging, we have the potential for increased utility rates. But by planning and preparing now, we can help reduce these impacts. So another chapter is the plan development section, and in this chapter, we try to go through what the process was and how the plan was developed. And a big piece we recognize from the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee is we want it to be relevant, and to help prioritize those actions, we need community involvement, engagement. This is not something that local government can do alone. So for the past year, we've been talking with stakeholders, municipalities, residents, and businesses, and trying to assess what the community is interested in, what their priorities are, as well as how we can support and align with organizations on the goals and actions in here with their goals. So two major engagement events during a pandemic was the survey. We did a sustainability survey in the spring, and the full report is shown in that link up there in the left. But we did use two instruments. So we did a randomly mailed survey as well as a public opinion survey. The mailed survey returned a 26% response rate and was deemed statistically valid, and the images shown here are from that survey. As you can see, the larger image on the right identifies the top 10 strategies that received the highest support. So this information, along with everything that's in the survey, will be used in the future to help with implementation, public outreach, and that type of information is very key to moving forward. And then the image on the lower left is very important to understand and remember that most of our residents do understand that the climate is changing, but even more believe that we should be looking at scientific projections when we're making policy decisions, and that addressing climate change will be good for our local economy. So another public engagement piece that we did was having a public forum in April. It was a virtually held forum where we had over 150 people attend. It was facilitated by Professor Laura Fowler out of the law department and her class, multiple students. So we were able to have breakout rooms where we went and talked about impacts, opportunities, and actions. And then there is a full report with the link shown there on the upper left. But these are the key messages that came back from that forum. So both from the survey and the forum, we have indications completely that the community is really ready for action. So another chapter in the, oh no, this is the same chapter. So the public engagement was key to creating the plan, but what we really found when we were putting the plan together is that there's 4 areas that kept coming up as we created the plan. So we wanted to have a plan that represented we can do this. So we included stories in it about things that are already happening. The municipalities have been very active in making our community already sustainable and resilient, and the CAP can build upon those successes. So I'm going to just go through a little detail. The local leadership leading by example. Ferguson Township has a story in there about their green infrastructure policy, which is basically turning turf into more ecologically beneficial and resilient landscaping. The borough, St. Paul's Borough, has a residential curbside organics program, and that has really been the first in the east of the Mississippi and something that we need to try to figure out how we can offer to more of our residents. And then it points also that it's not just the municipalities, but others in our community, such as State College Area School District. They defined and adopted a policy in 2008, and since then they have built, their 7 last buildings have been LEED certified. And this really helps minimize their operating costs and their environmental impacts. When you look at partnerships, we used the story of the SPPA working group. And there's 15 entities that are exploring pooling their electricity use together and determining an amount that we might be able to do a solar power purchase agreement. So we're studying that, determine if it's fiscally and environmentally the right thing to do. And this is a great example of the type of partnership that is needed to implement successful action identified in the CAP. So working together beyond our boundaries, both municipal and regional, are really going to lead us into successful implementation. So continuing talking about leading by example, our current efforts on being a bicycle-friendly community. So Patton joins COG, State College Borough, and 8 other businesses in being a sustainable, bicycle-friendly business. And this type of work is helping to improve social equity. So one of the guiding principles for the CAP is to look at our actions and make sure we're including and supporting those who have traditionally been marginalized. And then the 4th guiding principle focuses on resilience and climate preparation. We recognize that the climate is going to change even if we reduce all of our emissions tomorrow. But we need to help our community be prepared, and we have many great things that have been happening. Our wastewater authority, the UAJ, has the first microgrid in Pennsylvania, which means they've got solar panels as well as battery backup, so that they will continue to be able to operate if the power goes out. Another good example of where we're fortunate is that we have a regional emergency management program. So that infrastructure has already been in the works here, and we can build upon it to identify our most vulnerable and help all community members improve their resilience. And then finally, another example of partnership along with resilience is the work led by Clearwater, where they have been working to conserve land and build riparian buffers. The one story that is in the CAP talks about the 2 farms, their families, and the local governments in College and Harris Township along Slab Cabin. But what's really great about this is it's continued to grow, and now it's moved down to a phase with Center Hills and Trout Unlimited in Clearwater. So that's the type of partnership and work we want to continue to see grow. So the plan itself is broken into 6 sectors, and 3 of the sectors are shown here. And under each of the sectors, there's the goal that's identified, and then objectives. And then in the plan itself, under each of those objectives are actions. So when you look at the total of all 6 sectors, there's 82 actions. The other 3 sectors are solid waste, land management, and clean, healthy water, shown here with their objectives and actions. The CAP itself is broad and far-reaching. So the actions that were included in the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan are really identified to allow for regional consensus. So they need to work for the region, which includes all 6 municipalities. And those priorities for what regional municipal actions will be, coming forth first and foremost will be set by the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee. But each municipality can also view the CAP and those actions as a sort of a menu of options that they want to pursue. So having this Climate Action and Adaptation Plan works at the regional level, and that's going to be where CRPA will focus, but there's also opportunity for municipalities to fulfill their needs, such as Ferguson Township, Harris Township, and State College Borough all have identified a resolution to reduce their emissions as well. So there's multiple ways this can be used, and we really also see this as building community movement as well, and inspiring local businesses, regional businesses to understand what our priorities for the community. So the final chapter in the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan talks about implementation. And we're really looking for a phased approach to build buy-in and momentum. What we're going to be focusing on in this next year is really leading by example. We know we can do more. We've talked about some of those examples today, but not all of us are doing them. Not all of us will. But each municipality will have the opportunity to learn from others and buy into best practices. And the things on the left are some examples where we have to look at the action plan and integrate it into our own operations. In addition, we want to help disseminate information over the next year with partners that are doing the heavy lifting. An example of that is the current Center County Solar and EV Charger Co-op that's being organized and run by the Solar United Neighbors. And then finally, we also need to start looking at what is the specifics of how we're going to handle actions in years 2 through 5. So what are the specific resources, needs, and actions that are needed. So what has been happening in October is I've gone to each of the municipalities, I've given presentations, we pushed out the information with a press release and social media, and I just want to let you know that people have seen the action plan. Not everybody has, we still have a lot of work to do to communicate and get engaged with the community, but the chart on the right there shows that on average for the year, we would get about 260 webpage views on an average month. But in October, we had over 1,200 views, and 772 of those are unique IP addresses. And I also will just point out that the CDT article was published on October 26th, but 88% of those views happened even before that. So there wasn't just one thing, it was the help of the municipalities reaching out to their residents and the meetings and the social media. So in your agenda packet, you have the matrix of the comments that we received. We did get 13 community members who gave comments also, and the responses. And I categorized them into sort of 3 areas. There's been a couple that were highlighting and identifying edits, corrections, and suggestions, and I thank everybody for that information to make the report a little bit better even. And then we have also the majority of the comments have been talking about implementation and where people think the priorities should be. So that will become part of information that the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee will be looking at in 2022. And then lastly, there's some comments on how best to do public education and outreach. So gets us to almost the end of my presentation, back to this figure of the 7 steps. And we are going into the next phase of implementing and monitoring. And this is a heavy lift, we've got a lot of work to do. And we want to have progress reports to the public so that they can continue to increase the knowledge and we can continue to have improvement with each iteration. The Climate Action and Sustainability Committee has a lot of work to figure out what that monitoring is going to look like. In the plan itself, we identified potential indicators, but we really need to nail those down and make sure we have the data so that we can report on those and identify if the plan is helping us to meet our objective. In addition to that, we need to determine the process for priorities and when and how we're going to do the next revision to the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And then finally, we want to make sure that these climate policies are being connected to capital improvement plans, and we're seeing a connection between the words on the paper and getting it into the municipal operations. So lastly, I just want to encourage you to know that if you adopt the plan tonight, you will join others in Pennsylvania. And I've listed here the ones that I am aware of as far as them having climate action plans. And so it's good news that we will be one of the leaders in our state. And I encourage you to adopt the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. But I'm here if there's any questions. And you also have the resolution in your agenda. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Questions of Pam or questions of the comment sheet or anyone on Zoom would like to? See you.
Chair, it's Laura by hands up.
See now,
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to commend Pam Adams.
Please.
What's that? I just wanted to commend Pam Adams on her effort on this. I know I'm representing my entire board when I say what a wonderful job that she's done to be inclusive, comprehensive, clear, patient, receptive, and responsive to municipal input. and really just an all-around amazing leader on this effort. And I just wanted to say thank you. And really, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, here.
Plus a very well laid out and readable, printable document. Other comments of Pam? See any more hands on the screen?
Yeah, so I'd just like to say that on this last Friday, I viewed a panel discussion of local leaders, municipal leaders, not local, sorry, across the country, Texas, Boston, someone from the Midwest, who had attended the COP26, the climate summit in Edinburgh. And they spoke of various ways that their respective climate plans were going to be implemented locally and also from their experience at the climate change and at the summit. And I just wanted to read what one of them said after having a conversation with Gina McCarthy. Gina McCarthy attended. She is, as many of us know, was a former head of the EPA and is currently I forget the exact title, the White House National Climate Advisor. So she's kind of a direct line to policy that is being made and implemented. And this person, I believe it was one of the mayors, come back and said, basically in local government lies the real action for climate change. So each of the person on the panels basically said that again and again. And they got this from attending the climate. And according to Gina McCarthy, that money is available for municipalities to make these differences, and that municipalities need to let basically the federal government know how much money they need and what they're using it for. The devil is in the detail, of course, in that last aspect, but the message to me from listening to these the government who attended the climate summit, that this is where the action is with all of us.
Okay, we have a hand up by Eric and then Elliot. Eric?
Thank you, Denny. Wanted to very briefly repeat what I said to Pam at the College Township meeting, and I think you mentioned here, and that's the document. The group has been commended, rightfully so, for their work, but it's rare that I see such important work produce a document that is organized and readable and useful as what the group has presented. It's an overlooked piece of the work that they've done, and I just wanted to bring it up here again in front of the general forum. So thank you.
Thank you. Elliot, sir.
I want to comment also how excellent this is, but I also think there are some steps that need to be taken, not necessarily here at this moment, but because of these effects. For example, the story about Ida in New York City doesn't have to have ended the way it did. The National Weather Service predicted extreme rainfall over a certain area several hours in advance of the rain that flooded the subways and killed people. And the problem was communication. There was nobody that automatically shut down the subway when these criteria were met. And so as we learn new things, we have to learn how to fill in the communications gap to make sure that we warn people of effects that are happening as they're happening, and just not say, oh, well, we're gonna have more floods. Well, what does that mean?
Thank you, Elliot. Teresa.
Yeah, thank you, Elliot. It's a really important point. I'd like to point out that there are a couple of things that we can do, not just locally, but encouraging individuals. People say, well, I don't know what I can do. And sometimes it's as little as changing how you source the bags you use for shopping, or personal items that you use for grooming. And so part of the education, some little tiny part, should be some kind of sharing of that with our students, with our larger community. The other thing is that we have an amazing opportunity. We have finished this beautiful presentation right in time to put ourselves in the grant and other funding streams that are coming from Washington, whether via Harrisburg or directly. And I've always said, never waste a good crisis. So I would say that each of us as individual municipalities or boroughs, our neighbors in surrounding smaller communities, and COG itself, we need to look now so that those gates are going to open pretty fast. Based on the national meetings I've been into, I think we can truly take advantage of things for solar, water, broadband, maybe even 5G. And I think that that's the next place we should look, specific funding for specific programs. And I understand that some people here are more or less comfortable or even uncomfortable with the funding that's coming from Washington. But we paid our taxes, and we should be taking our fair share to help protect our communities individually and together. So again, I've said this before to Pam, thank you. You're enormously organized and you've given us wonderful streams of places to go, and we just need to now get on the funding and work groups and make it happen. So thank you all.
No more hands on the screen. We have any comments here? I would like to call the vote. I think we need to vote positively to reward Pam for the fine work she's done on this. So all in favor of that resolution, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? There's none here. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. Can you come back again and keep us flowing with all the good things you're doing?
Yep, I'll be back.
Okay, right. Thank you. Okay. Number 7 has a motion attached, so we'll entertain the motion and then do the discussion by Evan.
So,
You want to move the motion first?
I move the motion.
Okay.
Second.
You can't do it.
Okay. Second, okay, now we get. Evan?
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, you've heard me talk about this before, but certainly the last 2 years from a financial standpoint, working through all this have been challenging, but because of the great work, I think, of our staff, and a thoughtful, hardworking, engaged finance committee that we've worked on all year, I think that we've been able to weather the storm, so to speak, and move forward. We put together this detailed budget. We ran 4 sessions, and it's not something that we just look at during the sessions we run. We basically work on this the whole year, but we ran 4 sessions. Some that lasted as long as 3 hours, that were all available on CNET and Zoom. Many folks in this room and on Zoom participated or were there to view things. Then this was referred to the municipalities. We received municipal comments back. We discussed them at the last Finance Committee meeting. I must say that in the 8 years that I've been on the Finance Committee, we probably received the least amount of comments that I can remember seeing. Some of the comments, though, and most of them, I think, were probably more strategic in nature, which was a good thing. We've internalized some of those, and staff's going to work on that moving forward in the future, so we have a better handle, and I think an idea of what's coming up, and that was the nature of those strategic comments. So the motion that was moved and seconded talks about this forum approving the budget. Of course, this has to go to the municipalities because each municipality has to approve their share of it within their own municipal budgets. But the motion is to approve and move forward with this, so that's my report.
Motion is sort of simple with respect to passing it to our municipality. Any questions about that procedure? That's it. We've done that in the past. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Lauren, okay, see your hand up there. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hi, thanks. Boy, we do pass our budget quickly when we get to general forum. I just wanted to thank Finance Committee Chair Evan Myers for highlighting the strategic comments that were received this year. I think that, as he mentioned, that this would help us plan better together in the future. And I wanted to confirm one detail of this budget. This budget still does not contain a line item for a supporting consultant for the Parks Governance Committee. Is that correct? That it does not.
There's not, well, there's a couple different things. One, we just passed the budget, so we're having a discussion afterwards, which seems a little bit out of order, but that's okay. But second of all.
Well, I'm not the chair, Evan, so I'm doing the best I can.
But second of all, my understanding is there's not a specific amount. And it's something that if we will need to do, we'll pass a budget amendment in the future. So, which certainly is something that is fitting and proper to do, and we've done those in the past.
Thanks. I do have one follow-up question, which I'll make sure gets to the Finance Committee is, does the COG have a custom or a policy on budget amendments? I know that our township, I'm not sure if we have a formal policy, but we typically don't plan to do a budget amendment. Typically, I'm not going to say never, but we typically make sure that something's in the budget if it's our intention to proceed with a project that might need support. So I just was curious, and we certainly don't have to answer this now because I know it can be very difficult for us to really know the COG policy, especially in short notice. But I would be interested in knowing if there is, looks like Joe Vigilone's yellow hand is up. So perhaps he does have an answer to that. If not, again, I'd be happy to defer that, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Joe, reply or comment?
I always lose that unmute button. Yes, we do have a formal budget amendment process. It was passed in 2018, and it is actually posted to my bulletin board up here.
Thank you. We voted on that, and we're done with that. So take it to your municipality, talk about it, bring it back. Thank you. Okay, number 8 is the COG software contract. There is a motion on the bottom of page 5. I would entertain that, and then we'll ask Mr. Walt to discuss. Someone like to do that? Anybody?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the general forum as recommended by the Finance and Executive Committees authorizes the COG Executive Director to execute the software contract with Tracer.
A second?
I'll second that.
Bob? Okay. Okay. Mr. Walt on?
Well, take the podium.
Oh, hi. I guess you're on. I was too old. Okay.
Good
Walt?
evening. This is the culmination of 3 years of work from at the regional staff level. We have kept the elected officials informed. We're very excited about the process, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody would have with regards to the proposed software package, which the vendor is a Pennsylvania vendor named Tracer. It's McMahon Associates out of the Philadelphia area. I know that they've been working hard with us to try and get this so it'll work for us regionally. And again, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Good, go. I have a question.
Mr. Chair, I would just add to Walt's that the financial elements of this contract were included in the 2022 budget that we just approved.
Carla?
Thanks. Appreciate all the work everybody did into handling this project. I do have a question that just occurred to me while I was reading the agenda item, so I apologize for the late entry, but reading the software package is a cloud-based solution and offers the ability to manage permits and inspections, citizen information access, et cetera, I paused a little bit at citizen information access. What kind of information are we talking about?
This allows the citizens to get access to their permits.
Okay.
So the idea here is not for the citizens to be able to, there's always a question of, is this going to kind of run around with the right to know request, and the answer is no. This allows them to get access to their project and be able to get real-time information on their project and their project only.
Okay. Now, turning it kind of on its head, information about residences, property owners, and things like that, is that something that will be in Tracer's hands, or is that in our hands only?
Well, it will be in Tracer's database, obviously, just like we are currently in Tyler's database.
Yeah.
But there is security in place to maintain that data as secure, similar to the way the county maintains it as secure and so on. So those are consistent.
Okay, so you've looked into the security of our residents' information and
Yes, and in fact, one of the things that Rod Beard was the special counsel that was hired upon our behalf to look at this. One of the reasons we've used Rod in the past, he did the contract work with Tyler, is he has a background where he had spent a chunk of his career specifically in this area, and in fact, one of the things that he added to this was additional bolstering to make sure that that security is there and that data is protected.
okay, thank you.
Got a question for you, Walt? Oh, go ahead. I'm gonna be thinking about the same question. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know, we're thinking of the same thing. Anyway, I have a question, and it has to do with the rapid advance of technology.
Yes.
You know, we're sitting here, you're asking to go for a 10-year contract on this software. What happens if it advances? Is there a terminology or is there conditions in this contract that they will keep us up to the most current technology? Or is this something we're gonna be stuck with and not be able to get out of or change 10 years down the road? So what language in there protects us that we will always be at the forefront of the technology?
In the contract, we're kept current on their most current edition. As they're upgrading this, we're continuing to be upgrading.
So, but that's their program. What happens if somebody comes out with something that's much nicer, much quicker? Are they gonna adapt to that and adapt us, or are we stuck with that?
The program itself, and based on our research, they have continued to maintain at the forefront this type of software. So they are continually updating their software package. And so we'll be maintained updated with them. Our experience with Tyler was, quite honestly, anything shorter than about this time frame. By the time you put it in place, we get used to it. Working with it, you couldn't. Not saying you couldn't, but quite honestly, it would be difficult to change, especially when we're talking about a regional solution. Any quicker in looking, quite honestly, by the time you get 3-4 years in, then you make your decision if you're gonna start looking again. But based on what we've seen and talked to other folks that have used their package, they've been very happy with how they have been maintained and continue to maintain at the forefront. So we're fairly comfortable that that is gonna be continuing to happen. But it's a very good question and something obviously we're gonna keep an eye on.
With the Tyler program, I don't believe Harris Township bought into that because of the extent of needing it. Is Harris Township included in this program?
So the Tracer contract allows all of the regional partners, so the 6 municipalities that form the COG, as well as Bellefonte Borough, because Bellefonte Borough uses the code office, to gain access to Tracer's complete package. And so yes, it's open to Harris Township, it's open to Patton, etc. They can use the full functionality, The only thing that we are not covering is additional costs. So the regional cost is ours, with the exception of if there's any cost with what I call external licenses. So for example, some of the GIS backing, there's some external license costs, but a number of the municipalities already have that covered where they're doing their Esri licenses already. For example, the GPS transceivers, if you choose to want to use the GPS locator on equipment, we're not covering that, and we're not covering the air costs of that. But the base software is all inclusive in this contract.
So it will fall on our shoulders to decide which parts or components we will need or think we can need or use it?
It's like the buffet. If you wish to come, we're gonna use it for permitting in the township. If Harris Township wishes to use it for zoning, if they wanna use it for the public works function, if they wanna use it for whatever, that's up to them. They are more than welcome to, and we would love to have them in it. But yet we will also function and be able to function without them choosing to use it similar we do with.
Will that be done on a tutorial kind of basis or?
Yes.
With respect to choosing which we need?
Correct.
Okay.
And we will reach out again to the township. We would love to have them involved completely. And as we start the implementation, we'll be reaching out again to all 7 to ask what involvement they would like to have as we do the build out.
Sounds more usable than Tyler with respect to what we were doing in the township, so that's what I'm asking.
Based everything we've seen so far, it's a much better solution for what we're doing.
Other questions of Walt? Anyone on the Zoom have a question of Walt? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, we're saying
Aye.
okay. Move to number 9. There is no motion on this as a discussion item and presented by Lord Anita.
Denny, I'm sorry, my window collapsed. Is this the letter?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think that folks on the Parks Capital Committee, folks on the Executive Committee have seen the letter. It was strongly supported by Parks Capital Committee. Last General Forum, we had a presentation by Penn State on the same topic or a similar topic. Their general plans, for those of us that have been following that outside the forum in the municipalities, that was about where they were at the last time they had presented. I don't think, I'm not sure what the status of the consultant is on that. And perhaps Sharima wants to remind us of the timeline, but the reason why the Capital Committee felt that our timeline of getting this letter out was important, it really relates to how much of an important project this is, and really the initiator of this project was Eric Barron, and he's going to be retiring. If my memory serves me properly, it would be June, I think. And so that's a really quite a short timeline, especially when you're in charge of a university, I'm sure. I can't even imagine if I had that timeline just to move my own personal house. But I imagine that timeline is short in terms of that kind of a leadership position. So Parks Capital Committee moved forward this letter. We felt in the context of our discussion of Whitehall Road Regional Park, additional funding, and how really all of the municipalities confirmed what an important link this is to previous investments, securing the Musser Gap trailhead into basically to the Allegheny Trail, which is really cool. Connecting that Musser Gap trailhead which many of us as municipalities had invested in, with the Whitehall Road Regional Park asset, and then on to the rest of the region through there, which would be really an amazing gateway. As I said, the state forest and the beautiful trails that are there. I think it would be, as we are really acknowledged in our master plan for Whitehall Road Regional Park, it's an extremely important link here locally in terms of county plans and really linking with the state. So it's no small item. The committee recommended that or recognized that. So we penned a letter. There were some revisions. It went to executive committee. Then we had the Penn State presentation, and I think that really confirmed our thoughts in terms of where the project is in its timeline, which is not ready to break ground yet, or even, if I understand correctly, ready to select an option per se. But no matter, because really the focus of the letter is for us to ask Eric Barron if he would consider please putting into writing in some manner, which we, I believe, suggested an MOU, because I believe that was within the comfort zone of Penn State, that public access would be secured for us in some manner, not indicating any particular path, but that linkage across that privately owned parcel would be maintained. I believe the word in perpetuity was taken out, but the intention certainly would be there. And so I believe that our committee, executive committee, would have probably been ready to send that letter. I'm not sure, but I believe probably we would have, had it not been referred to a recent previous letter that was not vetted by the general forum, and therefore folks didn't have a chance to give input, and our communications policy to external groups is not quite finished yet. In fact, this is probably, I think, maybe the first exercise of that. All of those factors, we decided to move it to the general forum, so we could have comment, despite the fact that it was unanimously passed by Parks Capital. I think primarily, again, based on it was about the vaccines, and I don't have to tell you all how that went. Obviously, this is a really different topic, and it's something that we've worked together on in the past through our work together on Parks Capital Committee. And we all really designed that master plan for Whitehall that includes its connection. Penn State's a valued member of that committee, as noted in the letter. And here we are at General Forum to see if we can get this letter into Eric Barron's hands before he starts thinking about U-Haul trucks. That's my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Laura. Questions, comment, more of
No
this?
questions. I was going to put something on the table, a motion on the table to start discussion. Is that okay?
Yes.
I move that the general forum, as recommended by the Parks Capital Committee, approve of sending a letter regarding access for the Musser Gap Greenway across the Musser Gap to Valley Lands parcels, as discussed at the November 22nd, 2021 general forum meeting, to Penn State President Eric Barron.
Second by Jesse. Discussion? Bruce?
Two items. Starting with the second one, it does indeed mention in perpetuity, and to me, in perpetuity implies an easement, not an agreement. So I would move that we strike the in perpetuity. And the other one is we refer to granting them the honor of having a representative on the Parks Capital Committee. And Penn State is a partner in in this project, and it's not an honor, it's something we should be doing.
Are you making an amendment?
I'm suggesting that we, yes, I'm suggesting we modify the letter so we don't strike
Doing that as a,
the honor.
All right, he's making an amendment.
And an honor reserved for no other. I move that we strike that, and I also move that we strike in perpetuity.
friendly amendment.
Are you making that as a single motion?
I'm making that as an amendment to the motion.
I'm not going to second it.
Oh, okay.
Question about the motion.
So we want to second that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Other? Going to vote first on the amendment, all in favor of
Mr. Chair, there's a member of the audience who has a question. It's Evans.
Where is it?
Jenny, other screen.
In fact, I did say it, Jeff. Okay.
Okay.
Jenny, go ahead.
Is that for me, Danny?
It's you.
Okay. So I was also uncomfortable with in perpetuity. I think that expecting Penn State to do that might result in a no rather than a yes. And also the honor bit just didn't make sense to me. It almost sounds like a position of weakness. I think overall, though, the letter is very, very much emphasizing that partnership, which is a good thing.
Good, thank you, Jen. Other discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone want to discuss the main motion?
Do you want to ask if anyone's opposed to the amendment?
Is anyone opposed to it?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, now let's get back to the original motion. We had a motion and a second on that. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good, thank you. Okay. Sharima, University Report, are you on?
I am on.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, I don't have a lot to report, but just piggybacking off of what Laura said, I do believe that we expect some things next month. I know we're on a condensed holiday, so I'm not sure when we'll be able to get that out, but our timeline to get back to the public was going to be at the beginning of the year on the Musser Gap to Valley project, so stay tuned. But right now, our numbers are low in terms of COVID, and our vaccination rates are still staying steady, with our union employee vaccination rates have risen to about 44%. So that's pretty good, and most people have already started holiday and will be off starting December 17th for the remainder of the year. So and that's all I have right now.
Thank you, sure. Okay, State College School District, President Brad is that on? That one. Executive Director report, Eric, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I really have to remark about tonight is we've provided the monthly activity report in your packet, and I would be happy to answer any questions about items that are in there or have some help from agency directors if there are any questions. But first, I'd like to draw your attention to the last part of that activity report where we listed information recognizing our staff and volunteers and elected officials who are veterans and who have served. And as we're in the month of November, this gives us an opportunity to be thankful and recognize our veterans, as well as be thankful generally with Thanksgiving this week. And to share more about that, Pam Robb would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Eric. Thank the General Forum for allowing me to have this time. I just have words of gratitude. I was honored with the Quilt of Valor, and I know that Rich was a former recipient of that. So, And I also want to thank Scott and Eric and COG for recognizing all veterans. On Veterans Day, COG acknowledged all who served, especially those members of COG, elected officials, employees, and volunteers. Just to name a few: Eric Bernier, U.S. Army, go Army. Anthony Fregologa, Army and Air Force, go Army and Air Force. Franklin Harden, U.S. Navy. We will see you next month. And Rob, U.S. Army. Jack Marshall, U.S. Army. Army's taking over, guys. Some names were mentioned and some were missed. I was asked to say a few words to honor and give thanks to our veterans. There is so much to be thankful for, and we thank all who have served. With extreme gratitude, we appreciate that you have done what you have done and continue to do for us. So, to all veterans, active military service men and women, and also those who serve in our communities, we are deeply grateful to all of you. And best wishes and a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
You have other reps?
That's all I have.
No more executive session report?
Agency report, I feel Walt has a comment to make, sir.
Yes, thank you again. For a moment, I just want to acknowledge Ned Leggett. Ned retired from the Center Region Code Administration after 29 and a half years. He started as a rental housing inspector and basically filled the roles all the way through as a rental housing inspector, then also a new construction inspector, and finished his career out as truly one of the best commercial plans examiners that I've had the privilege to work with and deal with. He was spot on, and quite honestly, the citizens and the visitors to the Center Region owe him a debt of gratitude. He was excellent at what he did and the level of safety that he brought to the region. And so I just want to acknowledge his 29 and a half years of service and wish him well in his next chapter in his endeavors, where he'll be traveling and spending some time enjoying himself. So we appreciate it.
It would be strange not seeing that around.
It is the next morning that he wasn't here. I can remember one of the front office staff making the comment, the phone rang, and somebody evidently was asking for Ned, and they made the comment that he's not in today. Hold on, he retired. It was kind of an interesting process through the recognition of that. So it's very, very odd.
Good, thank you.
So, thank you.
We'll do some recognition of individuals that have. Okay.
We'll recognize terms of 8 elected officials who have participated in Center Region COG General Forum and this community. Outgoing members may feel free to make any remark as they recognize. In addition, Shore Library Director Lisa Collins will make a presentation once all outgoing elected officials have been recognized. So we'll start with the borough. Teresa? Yeah. And that way you can get in line next, so. One on that. Sure. Library card. Comments?
A couple of quick comments. 12 years, over 14. I am term limited and I'm grateful. I don't know how some of you do this decade after decade, and I am thoroughly impressed by you. I think COG is an amazing organization. And we've been known to pick on us more than once over those 14 years. But when I work with people throughout the state and at the National League of Cities, and I explain what we have, what we do, and how well we usually do it, there are always questions about how and how they wish they could do the same thing. We are an amazing group of people, individually and together, because we care, and I have never had anybody on any committee anywhere with me who didn't put in the time and effort. And if we can continue that in perpetuity, we will be one heck of a special group. So thank you all for the pleasure of working with you and the wonderful ideas and efforts you're going to put in. Thank you.
Evan. Want to do your comments?
Thank you. I have a couple comments today too. It's certainly been my honor to serve with all of you. It's not as many years as Teresa, but for 8 years. I think, you know, what we do, what all of you do, is important work. We heard tonight about the impact that we can have locally dealing with the environment and climate issues, and there's so many things that we can do. We've worked on a number of things over the years I've been here, that better the common good, the natural human condition, from expanding parks to defending the rights of immigrants, a whole gamut of things. For many of you, I don't have any idea what political party you are, and it really doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to be relevant at this level, because all of you, all of us together, have worked well together because we care about this place. And I think that's really important. I guess I'd leave you with this comment. Unfortunately, I see at a much higher level a coarsening and vitriol that exists higher up at a national level. And I really am concerned that that not filter down to this level, so we can continue to get things done. So my hope for all of you is that doesn't happen, that you resist it. And again, thank you very much. It really has been an honor and a pleasure to work with all of you.
And the other state college portal, Kathleen Yickey, and she online?
Here. I just texted her that.
I think she may be traveling with family.
I am here. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. So yeah, I've been here over a year, and I'm very happy to serve my community, to fill the need, and I'd be happy to do it again. I'm honored to be part of this community and proud of the Center region, and very proud of the people that serve. Thank you. I'll
Your recognition.
get my gift bag later.
We will get your recognition gifts to you, Susan Barrow or Tom.
Okay, College Township, Anthony Pagola. Donate.
Thank you. I can only echo what has been said before by Teresa and Evan. It's been a pleasure to work with everyone here. I've been fortunate to have been able to work with all of you. I think the COG in itself is great. We all have worked well together, no matter what committees we've been on, and we've all compromised in a good way to help better the community. So I'm fortunate and glad and proud to have served with you all, and I'd like to wish this new incoming well. Thank you.
Township, Steve Miller.
All I got to say is, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Sounds like a TV
broadcaster.
The last line of Truman Show.
The other workers in the township, person, Pam Steckler.
Pam is on,
Hill. Comment?
Well, it was a short stint, but I've learned so much, and I'm just amazed at what all of you do. I'm so impressed. I think Carlo is in good hands, and I'm glad I got to do it. I wish I was a little bit stronger and I would have been able to run for office myself, but this worked. I got the chance.
It does take a few years to get onto the policy for the COG. Okay, Half Moon, Janelle.
Too short, so I'm putting that down here. I would like to thank everyone. This has been a pretty amazing 6 years that I've been able to serve with all of you. And I want to have a challenge for the new folks and the new chair, because there's going to be a lot of new faces. And the reason that this works so well, I believe, is because of relationships. And it's because of how we work together. So I've said this before in many meetings, to try and be kind to one another, be patient. There's a lot of people, a lot of different personalities that need to come together to work together for the greater good. Remember, it's the greater good, not individual agendas. So this is the greater good. So challenge to you all to develop those relationships as quickly as possible in 2022 so that you can continue this working well. Thank you.
We're gonna have new colleagues on committees real soon.
Social
Okay.
events.
Pat Township, Anita.
I'm here.
On there,
I'm on Zoom, and I am grateful. I'm grateful that we've been able to have hybrid meetings. I'm at the extreme end of pandemic caution, hibernation, and really don't go indoors anywhere except for the regular once a year medical checkups because of, well, my husband has some high risk, but I'm very grateful that for those meetings that have been able to be conducted hybrid. And I commend all of you for, meeting in person. And I know that's a better way to build community, but I've been delighted with the degree of community building that has happened even over Zoom. And I attribute that to the individuals on the committees who reached out and who have affirmed conversations that happened remotely. So I would say everything that the previous colleagues have said. I've only, been here for 2 years as a supervisor and am clearing the calendar for some other things in the new year. But am very grateful for folks that I've met and learned a lot, just as everyone else has said. I'm grateful too for, as you think of new people entering, and I know that one of the new Patton Township supervisors, Susan Magruder, who works full-time, many of you do work full-time, but what a challenge that will be to incorporate what I would say younger folk, and anybody who's a day younger than I am, I see as a younger folk, but someone in their 30s, full-time professional, to have their voice heard also in your committee structure. I know that'll be a challenge just in scheduling, but I've been very impressed with the outreach that you all have done for me and am very grateful for it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's move back to the agenda and
Denny, this would be the time to call on Lisa Collins to explain the books.
Oh, yeah, Lisa had a copy. Is Lisa on? She is.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? So I believe that so many messages, beautiful messages, are absolutely in our children's picture books. And so you will see that we were handing out for each individual And for those individuals who couldn't be in person, we will make sure that your book gets to you. There's a tribute plate in each of those books, and it is checked out to a staff account. We hope that you enjoy it and you can share it and really see the messages in it. And we hope that it really is just a wonderful opportunity to really enjoy these moments. So I did want to go through and just let everybody know kind of what we had, the different ones that we had picked out for everybody. So I'll go through this pretty quickly, but you can see the first one here is Hope at Sea, an adventure story by Daniel Mears. And this was presented in honor of Evan Myers. Now, Hope doesn't want to listen to her father's stories about his voyages at sea. She wants to be a part of those stories. And now here's her chance. She will stow away on Papa's ship, but look, the wind has picked up, the sky is darkening, batten down the hatches. Could there be such a thing as an adventure that is too exciting? Well, we thank you, Evan, for your skilled navigation through so many types of seas. Thank you so much for everything that you did. Enjoy this book and what the messages that it holds. Moving on to Anita, you'll see Anita, the Creature of Habit. And this is presented in honor of Anita Thieves. Now, on the island of Habit, there lived a very big creature, and every day he ate 3 pineapples and 2 bananas. Then he said hello to the fish of the trees and the crab who lived under the rocks. Every day was exactly the same, which was just how the creature liked it. Until the day a very small creature arrived on the island with his own ideas, different ideas, and turned everything upside down. Thank you, Anita, for always helping us see things from a new perspective. We really appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you so much. For Pam, this book's for you. There is a Mouse in a House by Rose Collins. A mouse has settled in Bear's house, and he just won't leave. Mouse is a real nuisance, eating all the food, listening to loud music, and even spilling bath water all over the floor. But when there's an unexpected knock at the door, will it push Bear over the edge, or will he decide that visitors aren't so bad? And we want to thank you, Pam, so much for filling in. You quickly moved from visitor to colleague, so thank you so much for the time that you gave to all of us. So a very special one from one of our favorite authors, Mem Fox, for Teresa Layford. Once upon a time, a tiny star falls to Earth, where it becomes a baby. The baby is embraced and cared for by the community and grows up to live a full and happy life. Legendary author Mem Fox has written a spare, exquisite text that captures the journey of life. We want to thank you, Teresa, for your years of hard work on behalf of your community, on behalf of all of our communities. It's been great to be part of your journey and to have you part of ours. So thank you. All right, this one's for Danielle and Danelle, and everybody should be able to kind of read along with this one for us. This is, the classic Llama Llama Red Pajama. A bedtime story, a goodnight kiss, and Mama Llama turns off the light, but is everything all right? No, at least baby Llama doesn't think so. And soon he whimpers, he turns, he hollers, and it's an all-out llama drama until Mama returns to set things right. We want to thank you, Danielle, for always being there to help and support each elected officials and your community. This one is for Catherine. This is called Cougar Crossing. How Hollywood celebrity cougar, that's kind of cool, helped build a bridge for city wildlife. And this is by Meg Pickus. Meet P22 and get ready to hear the amazing true story of how this lonely cougar became a Hollywood celebrity and a hero for city wildlife everywhere. Thank you, Catherine, for all the time you've given to help create new corridors of cooperation in our communities. Just 2 more left. This is a beautiful, beautiful new book called Loving Kindness. And this is by Deb Underwood and is in honor of Steve Miller. You are a blessing. You are beautiful just as you are. You are loved and loved. You make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes because that's how you learn. Loving kindness encourages us to be tender with ourselves and others and to open our hearts to the world. This vibrant book celebrates connection, compassion, and life. We want to thank you, Steve, for helping to develop connections between our communities. Thank you so much. And finally, one more for Anthony. This one's called Fuzzy Inside and Out. And it is small acts of kindness and really big hair. Meet Fuzzy Haskins. With unruly fur and a heart of gold, he's fuzzy inside and out. Everywhere he goes, Fuzzy spreads warm, fuzzy feelings throughout his community. There's only one thing that can possibly dampen his spirit: the humidity. When rainy weather brings on extra fuzz and gets Fuzzy into a jam of his own, he takes the generosity of others to get him back on his feet. With its endearing takes on friendship and small acts of kindness, this charmingly offbeat tale from the hilarious mind of Zachariah O'Hara will inspire others readers to spread fuzziness wherever they go. So thank you, Anthony. Thank you, all of you, for helping to spread the fuzziness a little bit throughout all of our communities. Thank you so much from School Library. Please feel free to take those home and enjoy them. And when you look up your name soon in the catalog, you'll see your book come up. So I hope that this tribute is something you enjoy for a very long time to come.
Tony, you have to ask him if you have that book at home about Fuzzy. That's a good.
Maybe Anthony could do some reading for us.
Committee reports, Rich, Executive Committee?
Yes, Executive Committee met November 18th, and the majority of the efforts resulted in this evening's meeting. One thing I would bring to the General Forum's attention is matter of record A with regard to a potential December meeting on the 15th at 4 p.m. That is tied to the fact that the bids for the Whitehall Road Park expire on the 22nd. So we're trying to be proactive and put it on your plate that we may need a meeting prior to that to get that moving.
Finance Committee, Evan, other than the budget, you have a good thing?
Yeah, we talked about the budget, we talked about the item right after that, so I will say that the report here accurately and extensively represents the details of the work of the Finance Committee.
Another year accomplished. Human Resources, Nigel says did not meet, so Parks Capital, Dawn, comment?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did want to actually say I'm going to miss Anita very much. Her contribution to that committee has been wonderful, and I wanted to say something during the committee meeting. And sometimes you know how it is as chair. But I wanted to make sure I mention and say thank you. I know we've already said our thank yous, but I want to say thank you one more time. Thank you.
Thank you. The Joint Public Safety and Public Service Committee met on November 9th virtually. Had a good discussion, but once again, PennDOT did not appear. And they're a major player in the kinds of things that we need to talk about. So we will need to encourage them to join us next year. So transportation, land use did not meet. Facilities did not meet. Climate action and sustainability. Betsy.
Sure. So I would first like to say that the write-up in the agenda succinctly and adequately captured what we did at the last meeting. But secondly, I'd like to thank everybody who has served on the main voyage of the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee, which I thought I was going to say without tripping up finally after a whole year, but I haven't. The contributions that you've made in formation and editing of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, CAP, have been extremely valuable. It's been just an honor to work with everyone. Especially mention that we will miss the
know. And I do want to give a special shout out to Pam Adams, who really did all the work. We just put a little icing on the cake and helped guide some of that.
Thank you. There are 6 matters of record. Just talk about the first one. Anyone have something to say about one of those matters of record? Otherwise, we will move on to page 12, item 19.
I move we adjourn.
Second. Good, thank you. Have a good Thanksgiving, folks.
Recording stopped.